All right, everybody. It's a lot of pride that I have to be able to present. This is like 8 years of doing this series. Generally falls around Black History Month, but getting this started, it's been a long career, over 20 some years at the intersection of hip hop and entrepreneurship, hip hop and comic books, AI, future of work, and I was able to help use a lot of what I present to help my son get to Carnegie Mellon at 15, graduate at 20, start a company on campus, do hackathons, really create this Toyz story. And people always ask, well, why toys? Well, we make own toys. We make electronic toys. We take a lot of engineering concepts, engineering principles, infuse hip hop culture, infuse entrepreneurship, infuse comic books. And now we've been able to create brands that have reached all over the world. So I'll walk you through, Great Deity died, that's me, Damola, aka Hustlenomics, created that term, trademarked it. When we started Owners Illustrated, it was 22 years ago, 23 years ago. And we had a concept. Who will be rap's first billionaire? Now, at that time, Michael Jordan wasn't a billionaire. Jay-Z wasn't a billionaire. Kanye didn't become a billionaire. Bob Johnson just became a billionaire. So it was like one Black billionaire. Oprah wasn't even a billionaire. And I speak about economic mobility. So at that time, people had not developed businesses and enterprises that was valued at over $1 billion. But Master P and Diddy at that time, they were on the cover of Forbes, Fortune, I think, and they were on the Fortune 40 under 40 list. They were worth over $300 million each at that time. Black enterprise that had both of them on the cover. And I'm like, there's something going on here that needs to be captured. A year later, I would do networking events at the DC Chamber of Commerce, working with young professionals in the DMV, tapping into my Howard Bison members, So tapping in, and I will connect with a lady, Nicole Lighty, the late Chris Lighty's sister, and they told me, they were like, we got somebody for you. I wanted LL. I was a big LL Cool J is hard as hell. Battle anybody, I don't care who you tell. I wanted LL, I wanted Busta, I wanted Missy. They were like, nah, I got somebody for you. I got somebody for you. He's gonna be huge. G Unit, it was 50. And we interviewed him while he was in a studio session with Dr. Dre. They were recording one of the records. Now, one thing that is key about our whole approach is I've always been on university campuses after I was done and gave opportunities. So a young student named Maya Norton, she was an 18-year-old freshman. That's why whenever I tell students, listen, tell me what are you trying to do? Tell me what you're trying to do because I can plug you in with an opportunity. I initially did not want to be the one writing a lot of these articles and telling a lot of these stories. Life would have been different. I just wanted to be behind the scenes, owning the company and running the operation. But she was hungry, she was eager. And she wound up interviewing 50 Cent, Pusha T from the Clips, Little John, the Lightings, Cool Kid. She wound up having a portfolio at 18 as a journalism major at Howard of several top guests. She was able to leverage that to a job at USA Today. That led her to Entertainment Weekly. That led her to Netflix, doing her own consulting. In '05, before there was Me Too, I was already talking about we needed to amplify. That's 20 years ago. Amplify stories of women in business. So we had Olivia on the cover, but I also had Mona Scott Young, who's behind Love and Hip Hop, Judy Brunson, one of the foremost Black women in engineering and automotive field. She has over 6 patents, like 6 patents. A mechanical engineer, runs VP of quality for Cumin, the truck. Sally Whitfield. And then the toy. So we also thought about cars, gadgets, video games. And this is simulated racing, Project Gotham Racing, cars, gadgets, video games. So I always thought that the stories aren't linear. They're very diverse and enriching. So I didn't just want to tell the story of, so I was like, how do you talk about tech and hip hop? Toys. So on the cover, we had like 3 covers. I had a Ferrari cover. Then I also have a virtual Ferrari cover. Digital twins. I was already thinking digital twins back then. And we also had a Rolls Royce cover. So you saw what people would see. Then you saw it virtually. We also had like the whole behind the scenes of the Transformers movie. And this is the magazine. So this came out in 2007, 5 years later. Wally was 10 years old when this came out. 5 years later, he's at CMU. Not only at CMU, and I've taken my time on this part of it, because normally I go to the next slide, but it's important to know what I'm selling, what I'm presenting, why this is so important. By exposure to the opportunities, the possibilities, featured interviews, featured content, he was able to now think of sustainable technology and illustrate solar panels on consumer electronic products that I will be reviewing. He will also have a self-powered smart glass that he would want to design. I would teach him the engineering concept principles behind building it out. And he will be actually featured on 20 Under 20 with Peter Thiel. He would actually be flown to Silicon Valley. He will actually interview with MIT. He will actually interview with Princeton, Harvard, Penn. I figured I made it too easy because he had that direct line to Fitzsimmons from Harvard. And I'm like, do you understand how hard that is? Like, people kill for that. There are lawsuits. There are people going crazy for that. People get locked up for that kind of access. And I don't look like a person typically having access to those type of people. So what is it that's special? Everybody has a story. Everybody has ability. You have to tap into each person's unique ability and maximize and amplify their special gene. So we started doing events here, and I think the first one was an event that I'm going to play a video for you guys, was here at the Schwartz Center. I did a hip-hop jazz fusion album out here at Carnegie Mellon. Took some of my lyrics, some of my songs, The Great Deity Da. I've been over 1 million views on YouTube. I'm one of the recipients of Advancing Black Arts in Pittsburgh. I not only Advancing Black Arts in Pittsburgh, Heinz Endowment, Pittsburgh Foundation, 30 countries across 6 continents. And then I created a graphic novel textbook. So the lyrics from that album became a whole curriculum. I designed that curriculum here across the street, Human Computer Interaction Institute. We would do hackathons. I took a lot of my learnings there. I took this culturally relevant curriculum, did the instructional design with the Metals program here on campus, and now it's available in video games that anybody could download on a mobile device. The heart is in the work. It's embedded in what we do here at Carnegie Mellon, and I spread the Carnegie Mellon ethos around the planet. I took this album all the way to Osaka, Japan, and took it to Technique's headquarters and sat down with I sat down with the brand director and the VP, the person in charge, one of the most foremost female engineers in all of Japan. She's in charge of home electronics for Panasonic. And she's also a musician. In fact, I just tapped in with her just a few weeks ago. From my over 20 years of covering 50, I aggregated all our content. We created a book along with our Chief Marketing Officer, Quincy Taylor. Hustlenomics presents The Untold Story of the American Dream, 50 Cent Success, and this special sauce that is Hustlenomics. He was able to create $14 billion in realized value. So how is it that this culture is able to generate all of that? What you see here is potential. What I showed you is how that is maximized and amplified. This current workshop is actually one of 2 workshops we're going to be doing today. Here we are. This first workshop is asset creation. The next workshop is going to be 3D animation and 3D modeling, and it's with a different set of students. But what they're doing now is writing their own stories, creating their own art, creating their own digital assets, and we're going to teach the students how to integrate these digital assets into a virtual reality game. Check.
And he doesn't.
So what you see is
What do you make this weapon do?
So, what were you thinking was like the villain in the story, like kind of created that a long time ago, and he like dodged from kind of thinking he was like a villain, but it turns out it was just like a okay guy, but now he's sort of out, so he's trying to get it back. And acknowledge he didn't know, but now that guy's a bad guy.
So what we have here is where the students are going to record an audio. This is a HyperX. It's really like the HyperX content creator studio. You could actually set this up in your home. So we have the HyperX keyboard, HyperX mouse, HyperX gaming pad, and we're using Audacity. So then the students, what we're going to do then, after they record their stories, is export out their stories, put it on the USB, and then integrate that into the virtual reality game, along with the visual art that they're creating. You create your own backstory, your own character. We're going to do a hackathon. And our goal is to teach you how you can create your own world. Because a fun fact about this story was I started creating The Great Deity Die. I commercialized The Great Deity Die when I was 19. So that's when I was able to put it on vinyl in '96 and distribute it around the world. But nobody told me how to do it. I just had this idea of this character, created the character and created music, and I didn't use my face. I was like, I didn't want people to see my face, I just wanted them to see the character and hear the character. So now we're able to teach students like you how you could create your own universe and create your own characters. Using software like Audacity is free to download. So when you record your audio, it's something you could download at home. A microphone, there are $100 microphones you could get to record, and then you could play around with music and basically write your own animated stories and create your own characters. What you see here is an art piece that was created for Toyz, which shows gaming, technology, and cars. This is a project we did with the Carnegie Mellon Music Department. And this project went all over the world, and it's available on iTunes, Google Play, Amazon, Spotify. We also have the smartwatch.
That line gets to you. He said, hey, what's up?
So, without further ado, you guys could take turns if you want to. I'll step back, let them continue. We actually also work in a breakdancing video game concept. So there's never been like a hip-hop breakdance video game that I know about. It's like dance party, and and then on, guys play Fortnite and there are all these dances. But I'm a hip-hop artist, a hip-hop purist. I make pure hip-hop music. So it's like 90s hip-hop, but I'm influenced by Kool Herc, who's been in my magazine, and Eric B. and Rakim. So the culture and the aesthetics of the culture. So he's going to show you this, and some of these things you could actually create here too. So that's part of the 3D animation part of this workshop, where you're able to actually download this app for free, and then in your own spare time, play around with creating animated characters and learning 3D modeling, which leads into doing things like Maya and Fusion and engineering and making products and hardware and all sorts of stuff. So again, thank you for participating. You guys are very bright to be here. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. And what you see there, and I guess I got to go to.
If you just click on it.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to pause that for a second and just kind of show you, like, what we did is take how we did what we do and democratize that as an education tool. So that now the community is co-creators and with us in every product we build. And what that did is it allowed more people to learn skills they typically wouldn't get an opportunity to. Another piece of what we do is inspire. You have to inspire people to learn, to create, and then monetize what they do so they sell. We also worked with the Boys and Girls Club of Western Pennsylvania. So here's the Boys and Girls Club. You see the great deity die. You see my merch. She's wearing the smart glass. Hold the game. Playing the game. That was version one of the game.
Nice. Go, girlfriend.
There she goes. And you're going to see the video of him when he was your age. Younger, older a little bit.
Can we use this for
Yeah.
Okay, ready? Let me see.
Here,
Oh, now you're rocking it.
on the one she developed, Carnegie Mellon.
All right.
And you're able to see students at a young age engaged. You're able to see older students engaged. Learning is lifelong.
Come on,
Got it?
come on.
How much is,
What are you guys doing?
how much do you have left?
You want to play?
I will get you.
And you're able to see how I'm able to take what I have done in my career and make it accessible for anybody. But this is what I did for my son. A lot of the people you see that are finalists have created unicorn companies. That means they've created companies that have generated, that are valued at over $1 billion. This is what I did for my 15-year-old. I tell people it's hard to peg me down because I've lived in districts that are 90% Obama and districts that are 90% Trump. I raised them in east of the river, Southeast DC. I also raised them in Hedgesville, West Virginia. He went to, West Virginia, Appalachia. I had him learning Mandarin at age 4. So what is it behind this guy? You have to be able to understand that we're all humans. And how do you connect to the human thread? Once you understand that we share humanity, then you're able to navigate the world. So here is like a moonshot. I will be flown to Silicon Valley at 15, skip multiple years. I will interview for Harvard. I mean, if you had that kind of formula, it should, my goodness. But we do. We do. There's a science behind how this is possible. Beyond genetics, there is a science. And we've been able to be very successful with people. So how? Here's how. What have we been doing? We were doing hackathons at Carnegie Mellon since what, 2015, 10 years ago. We're about to do another one March 28th through the 29th in the Schwartz Center from 6 p.m. till 4 p.m. Right, Alex? 6 till 4. What does those hackathons look like? Well, I kind of mixed what we did at the Washington Auto Show with that. We infused music, coding, technology. Diverse talents work on new technology in a creative way. What we did at the hackathons, we brought some kids at the Washington Auto Show. They were in a Chinese immersion school, the Yuyang School. They learned Mandarin at a young age, just like my son. And we brought them to the Washington Auto Show and let them look at automotive simulations. I'll talk about Carolyn's story in a moment. For those of you who are at CMU, this is Hunt Library. In the Hunt Library, when we started out, ID8 as a program that's interdisciplinary hadn't even taken hold yet. While it was in the first batch of ID8 graduates. But the approach was expose my son to as many things as possible, then let him figure out his way. In our curriculum, we do the same thing. In the game, you learn about world cultures because I've traveled the world. You could actually see places I've gone. Toyz Station Gaming League now is going to spread around the country. In this hackathon we're going to do here, we're going to involve students from other colleges to stream in. But let me now tell you the story of Carolyn and the impact. Carolyn was actually pledging, what is it, Kappa Alpha Phi? And you see all of this cool stuff we built. I remember talking to a student yesterday, and he was like, why did you want to become a mechanical engineer? He was like, I loved Iron Man. And I'm like, that's kind of what we were doing. Tools of the trade, Raspberry Pis, but a lot of these are electronics that we developed, our own gaming phone, gaming watches, a lot of products that are so cutting edge. And we wanted to build a developer ecosystem. Here's Carolyn and her sorority sister, who she brought to a hackathon. Who will say people during Pledge Week will come to a hackathon? That's how cool what we do here at Toyz is. Okay, so go ahead.
So we made an app that was inspired by making an app for this watch specifically. And so this is the basic framework of our game. Okay. So it's just like a simple game. So there are a stream of platforms that come past the ball, and the ball basically has to move to the different platforms to gain points. And so with the watch, we would be able to move the ball using wrist movement, or possibly the using your fingers. And
yeah, we wanted to add more advanced levels, so we would have blocks that would that are red that would end the game, or if you touch it, obstacles. And we also wanted to have turning, so you can go around corners.
Yeah, so when you move your wrist, it would be just pretty fun to just
So this idea, so you said
I look a lot different now. I lost a lot of weight.
More difficulties, and that is powered. So where would the display be? Could that be something that would work on your laptop, like you're saying here?
Yeah, on.
So would it also work with Bluetooth devices? So anything that has Bluetooth, or Wi-Fi, so then you could be on the same network with your watch, and then you could be playing the game with gestures on the watch.
Yeah, that could work too.
Or your TV, if you have a smart TV. So what are your names and what are your majors?
Oh, I'm Sophia, and I'm a stats and machine learning major.
I'm Carolyn. I'm cognitive science and design, and we have a third teammate who's not here today, but she's also cognitive science.
So what is her name?
Rin.
Okay. So, and what do you call your team? The team they get. What year are you?
We're all freshmen. Yeah, we're all freshmen.
Wow. So you're all freshmen and this is your idea, but are you in any game design class?
Not really. We just know TK intern from 112.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So this is your idea. So you just thought about this and the hackathon inspired you and the watch inspired you to come up with this idea. That is great. Congratulations. So basically you guys are the winner of that event, of the hackathon. So congratulations, but that is incredible what you girls have done, and do keep up the good work.
Okay.
So just to summarize the impact, these young women were freshmen. cognitive science majors, they weren't coders, and given the opportunity, they came up with a game that blew everybody away. I was blown away. Their game wound up being on our smartwatch. It wound up being one of the central games we'll use in the market to watch. But I speak of that to say, if you're looking at fixed intelligence, you're going to miss so much. And that's the environment we're in right now, saying that everybody's intelligence is fixed. When I actually did some research and spoke with administration here, in admissions, it's best to have growth intelligence because there's new discoveries that are always possible. And you want people that could adapt and implement new discoveries when they're exposed. You saw people exposed to things they never thought about. It wasn't their major. But what they came about was brilliant. And I'm on the fundamental belief, I look at myself, I'm a big X-Men fan, Charles Xavier's. I always think about that school in Westchester, New York. I used to live in Yonkers, so Westchester County. And there's this X gene that people have, and you want to find these mutants. You want to find these people with this special skill that once you expose them to things, they could unlock so much human potential. So I say culture dictates commerce. My why is that a man gains immortality when his daily deeds and actions are worthy of dying for. So when his body decays, his soul remains everlasting. And I will admit, that kind of leaves you lonely sometimes because what is it that what were you talking about when you have to have something inside of you that drives you regardless of what's around you. The current system doesn't work for people that look like me, so it's required for bold approaches. I had to come out of the box. And I was sitting at NVIDIA's press conference at CES. I happened to sit down to Jeffrey Wang, Jensen's brother, and he was telling me about what NVIDIA means. And in the logo, you have an eye that's out the box. NVIDIA is like new vision, and the eye is outside the box to show that you had to be bold. So I was like, I'm aligned with that. And to see how big that company is, one of the 10 largest companies in the world, well, depending on the stock price now, but to be the company that's transforming AI, it gives me confidence that I'm on the right track. So with Toyz, we got deep into esports. So I was doing launch events for Epic Games. Here are Epic Game developers coming in as their costumes because it's like, well, why is Toyz selling? Why is their game making me do avatars? I've actually had employees of gaming companies collaborate with me. We've had hackathons, we've had esport tournaments, we've given out good merch and swag way before this whole thing became an industry. This is in 2008. I partnered with Epic Games, IGDA, and we had Toyz Nation. But we always wanted to help people get into the industry. So I always combine industry, workforce, with the fun. I did Madden tournaments, partnered with GameStop. This was one in South DeKalb. For my people in ATL, I was outside. But we did it in 15 cities. We had it in El Paso. We had it in Miami. I went to Stores, Connecticut. I went all over the country doing esports and Madden tournaments. As you can see, Toyz Nation, GameStop, come out and play. Here are some of the events, some of the stops. We went from New England, Connecticut, Florida, Atlanta, the South. And what we built is this framework where esports could be an anchor to bring diverse people together. You could have the industry actually show people how to work so you can mentor people that are younger. And as a result, you could build a whole community like the people I'm showcasing. Now, I've talked about Kennedy. Our work has transformed lives. Literally. You saw Carolyn, but let me tell you about some of these other students. Howard didn't have a game design program. When I did I-Core research here, Schwartz, Allison, Melanie, Kit, who's no longer here with us, who's retired, I found out that a lot of universities don't even have the capacity to deliver that education, which gets back to this whole idea that people's knowledge is fixed and I'm the smartest. You might be the smartest based on exposure, but you've not really competed with everybody because they've not had exposure to that knowledge. So what we did was this pilot program. I looked at the fact that Carnegie Mellon had accelerated masters with schools overseas, and I'm like, why don't we replace the international schools at HBCUs? So an MOU was drafted between Howard and Carnegie Mellon. We will bus students from Howard to Pittsburgh for the ETC. And in that program, I exposed the ETC that had just 2 candidates that were African-American to 30 candidates. Kennedy, fast rising. Not only did she take on, she would wind up getting a PhD offer using the platform, using the content, because you create your avatar. Now you see everybody does their own avatar. She will now get a PhD offer as an undergraduate at Howard that never had exposure to game design programming as a course till this collaboration happened. And she got a full ride to USC for their master's program. I wanted her here, but we did not. A full ride to USC beats paying money to. But we validated that that approach works. Maryland, go Orange. Forever, another Syracuse engineering student. I'm a Syracuse alum. She was in computer science. And within 6 weeks, she was able to learn about AI, video game development. Rebecca, another CMU student, also worked with us, learned the game development, learned about AI. She's also a computer science major. Timothy is actually an innovation scholar here at CMU. He's been working with us since he was 10 years old. So he just flew to Silicon Valley with Sonia and Dave. And he got here exceptional student. At our hackathons, as I said, we bring industry people. Here is Wally. I literally walked Wally as a 17-year-old. I want people like, the game is to be sold, not told. I should not be saying what I'm saying because this is valuable. I walked a 17-year-old into Madden Studios to get a job as an intern. I leveraged my access doing tournaments and coverage for EA to open the door for my son to work underneath the studio head, the studio manager in Cimarron. But I didn't keep it there. I said, well, you helped my son learn a lot. We have these hackathons. Would you mind doing an AMA for 30 minutes to some of the students at Carnegie Mellon? Here's what you have here. I never thought of just looking out for my son. I always thought about how do you greater help everybody's kid. So Roy Harvey, VP of Mobile, and now he's not in EA now, but he's an exceptional innovator, shared some insights. And he's talking about humanities. It's probably one of the most important areas of games moving forward. Why? People play things they can relate to. A key feature of what we're doing with Toyz and Diversity is to have everybody tell their story so that everybody's included. And it is counter-revolutionary in a sense, because normally you have a fixed story and then you have people hook on the stories that you create. And it's hard to curate gameplay when everybody's contributing. But I thought eventually the world would get to a place where now everybody's bringing their superhero version of themselves, and those are the stories that we consume. So he had talked about that. The UI you think of is like second-class citizen, but it's really first and foremost for the experience. how you engage with the product, what it looks like, what people first get is what they take home. I also, as you saw Project Gotham Racing. That became Forza. I actually interviewed the studio chief. And he talks about, for me, I looked at gaming is so popular, but what are the lessons we could use from gaming to teach other fields? So he talked about the CAD data. And as a mechanical engineer, that's a lot of what we use, right? And talked about how they work with these manufacturers. So what caught my attention was this Forza 7 that had the Ford GT on the cover. And we used that in what we did at the Washington Auto Show. Then we used that game, had people coded, how to make music in their own soundtrack, and then how to be exposed to the actual product. So now you have a simulation, digital twins, where you could think of it virtually and then touch it in real life. So he says, we start a new product. We want to find a great partner. Want to make sure that we're able to highlight and show up the car in a very special, unique way. So you can really do this as early as possible as we can. Some of that is what we build in this immersive world. And a lot of that is what we're going to have happen at the hackathon. Now, the hustle, though. The hustle. For me, I went on tour with 50 Cent, Jay-Z, and Beyonce, rocked the mic tour. Didn't have no investment, didn't have bank loans, literally had to sell subscriptions at every concert to pay for the hotel room, not only for me, but for my staff. We all had to hustle. David John's one of the greatest hustlers. We know him from Shark Tank. We came from the streets of New York. When you're exposed, when you live in the streets of New York, there's a certain, it's the most dense city in America. 8 million stories in the city is a pity. Everybody's packed in. So you have to stand out. Like you have to figure out a way to get out. Like my man now said, full of black rats, and I understand. It's like you packed in. So you have this mindset. He started a clothing line, making t-shirts, FUBU. Everybody's looking for something new. There's nothing else to do. Now it's about reinforcing the name and what the name stands for. Instead of using the communication or social media to just talk, find something to sell, because you have to be an expert on something, whether it's music, clothes, whatever is saving the planet. Find something and understand entrepreneurship. That's why part of the platform is tell your story. And we help people frame that from tech and entrepreneurship. And you can empower your community. A lot of these threads are built from a lot of highly successful people I've been able to hang out with. I put Larry Miller there. People were like, why you put Larry Miller? Larry Miller created the success behind the Jordan brand. Michael Jordan retired. Everybody remembers him retired in 98. Then he came back and retired in 03. People want to forget the DC years. Your record is your record. But what Larry Miller told me about after Michael Jordan retired again was he wanted to build $1 billion business around Michael Jordan. The legacy. That goes back to what I said. A man gains immortality when his daily deeds and actions are worthy of dying for, so when his body decays, his soul shall remain everlasting. When you build a brand identity, when you build with integrity, when you build a name, then after you no longer have that initial excitement, the legacy is valuable. The Jordan brand is built off of legacy. And I had Larry Miller talk to me about it. And he was like, there's a lot of Black people that had skills, music, sports, but they didn't understand how to manage their business and manage their money, so a lot of them are broke. Financial literacy, and I was just talking to one of our clients, PPG, about that, about what's not in schools, how certain people are not exposed to financial literacy. What I really appreciate about a lot of young folks are doing now is they're learning. They're trying to get as much information about business. There's a culture now of get your money. There's a culture now of entrepreneurship. There's a culture now of monetization. And they're the ones that are benefiting from their skills and talent. And we're just amplifying that. You know, I've shared a lot about 50, but I'll just talk about the first one. You have to have a 5-year plan. As I'm building Toyz, I'm thinking about what would the world be in 2030? I'm not trying to chase the latest trend. I'm thinking, I want this company to be dominant in 2030. 5 years, where's it going to be? Where's the technology? How am I going to grow? How am I going to accelerate? And how am I going to be a unicorn by that time? Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne is such an interesting character. But the first line, personally, I'm a hustler. You can't let tragedy touch you at all if you're a hustler. That means that in our game, we teach design thinking. Your villain is your obstacle. You can't let whatever tragedy, whatever triumph, whatever difficulty, whatever pain you're going through stop you from getting to your ultimate goals. That's where you bring fortitude. That's when you build character. I'm very available. You can contact me, Damola at Toyz Steam. You look me up, Damola, the Great Deity Doll on social media. And as I said, thank you to all of you for attending. But we have a hackathon, Toyz Hacks, here at the Schwartz Center from March 28th, 6 p.m. to March 29th, 4 p.m. I told you about Tim when he was 10 years old. He's now an innovation scholar. Told you about our hackathons on campus. Here's what you see. People able to tell their stories. Now, it's a platform that allows anybody around the world to engage. We're rapidly growing. And thank you, and I'm open for questions. So if there's anybody that has questions online. Yes. That's very good. So I think I have this weird gene because it got my parents very upset. It got my dad. He disowned me when I was 18. He was like, you know, my son, I wanted to combine engineering with art. When I saw, but what my dad didn't know was why I wanted to be an engineer. I saw Knight Rider, and Knight Rider is this car, Knight Industries 2000, self-driving car that had an AI. And I'm like, I want to make that. Then I listened to this song, Rakim Follow the Leader, that came out in 88. I remember, dun, 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 dun. Follow the leader, Rakim would say. Follow me into a flow. And he was like, as we start getting further and further away, planets become smaller and smaller as balls of clay. That was in 88. I'm like, planets are getting smaller and smaller as balls of clay. Far as the eyes can see, not even a satellite. I'm like, satellites? I want to make satellites. 2 years later, I was already in pre-engineering programs at Michigan Tech. So I also saw science fiction, so I was a big Marvel fan. Every Saturday, I'd want to watch Spider-Man, and then they had the Fantastic Four, then they had X-Men. Now they brought it back, X-Men 97. Like, all of that influenced me. So I was writing business plans. My mom says it now. You were doing business plans at 17. While I saw the business plan I made when he was just born. He was like, you had a business plan from 96? I was thinking about this, and it was 12 divisions of my own company at a young age. I just thought, I was like captivating. Web 1 came, and I was like, oh my God, I need to start a company. I need to do this. I need to do that. I was so excited at the beginning. I think that Web 1, the dawn of the information age, when we started getting online, was this dawn. Now we're in the thick of the information age, where now information is sentient. It could think, AI. But the beginning was people getting online. and this whole digitization. So that's where it came from. I started thinking about all the ways life could change using technology and creativity. And they were like, you just finish your engineering and do that. And I'm like, I gotta hustle. I gotta find an investor. I gotta be what we do here. I gotta hack the system. And at that time, I didn't see founders that looked like me, but I believed in it. And I wound up doing it with my son. Any other questions? Yes.
Can you tell the story of the person that you create, which is your avatar? How does it become inverted into the game?
Well, you actually, so here's the brilliant thing we did. Everybody, when you start the game, you storyboard. We want to know about you and you tell your story. Like, I get a chance to tell my story here every year, but in the game, you're telling your story. So you map out who you are, where you're from, what's your zip code, what are your powers, what is your unique name, what do you want to be? Then you start making your avatar. Then you could play as your avatar. So now your avatar goes through the virtual world. And you can keep on adding on to your story. You can share it, you can stream it, you can make 3D models of it. But it starts off with you, your story. It's not prepackaged. So what happens in the game is what you determine. Just like what happens in a life is what you do. Life is what you make it.
Interact with other stories?
It can. You could actually see in a marketplace and pick other people's stories. And then you could say, well, I want to follow that story. So I'll use that character.
And it will be a part of your...
Yeah, then you play as that. You play as that avatar. So in the marketplace, you have different avatars. You might be like, okay, I like that story. Play as that avatar. Now that becomes the character that you play. So you could be inspired by others. Our whole goal is to allow people from other cultures, places, things. Then there's a studio where you make your soundtrack. Because every superhero needs a theme song. You got to have a theme song. So for me, I use a song called NASA. Let's go to a place never seen, magnificent sea. Journey with the lyrical renegade imperial, visual, physically famished, grew up the alpha before time established. Exists in a space, no dimensional boundary. Ace of points we evolve when I revolve and dissolve your galaxy's axis under through your light beam and leave your spectrum side to rearrange their praises the rays that left their souls estranged. You know, I have my own rhymes, things that I took from my learnings as an engineer, made it cool, brought it visual. I'm streaming this live, like taking what I've done that's gone around the world, and I didn't even know it got around the world. People just found it. Now, how you get 1 million views? I didn't pay for that. That was organic. It's like 1 million people wanted to check me out on YouTube. Great deity die, you know? And I've utilized that to help so many, and those are the stories. That's the greatest joy of my life. You know, it cost me a lot, relationships, a lot. It's like, oh, man, you don't have time. And I'm like, I'm just living. I am a person that sees things and I'm like, I don't know. What do you want out of me? Kind man, stand on truths, live off values. But I did not feel, and I don't feel comfortable in an environment where we're telling people that what they were exposed to and where they are now is all their intelligence. I know you're not smart. How do you know? How do you know? I don't know. You've not been exposed. I could tell you've not been exposed, so let me expose you. Then we can see, how do you adapt to new knowledge? How do you grow? Because life evolves. I say a story about how I studied engineering. So I'm very heavily involved at Syracuse also. We have an office there in New York. And I tell the students, when I was studying in Byrd Library, I couldn't bring a scientific calculator into my exam. You guys have phones that have AI that could give you answers. But that's in my lifetime. When Wale was here, there was Siri. So how do you adapt to that? Am I going to say, oh, you guys don't know anything because you can't do analog and you can't grab a paper and do the problems out? Why do you even need to do that? Your knowledge base has to shift now, because what is important is not that you could do what I did, but how do you now add on with what's available? How do you optimize the available resources and grow and push it beyond that boundary? But people want to be fixed in, well, I could do this and I could do this and this is what I did. But I'm like, no, we've evolved. So how are you able to excel in the new evolution? That's what we push. That's what I feel is important. That's how I like to measure intelligence. So when I look at people, I'm like, okay, what do you want to be? Don't tell me what you can't do. Tell me where you want to go. And let me show you and think about what resources we could give you. So Diversity AI, which is our new platform, would now give you those tools. So it'll be like, okay, how would you talk to them? Well, what is it that you would think about? Here are things, here's resources, here's what they need, here's what you want to do. And then how do I match you to people that, you know, would already have done it before? So now you have expertise that could be at your fingertips. So everybody now has an expert that's real. What is the easiest expert to reach out to? Alumni of the same university, because you have a shared common thing. Match them to alumni that's already done what they've wanted to do. So now we have this shared background. And then now grow a community that way. But that starts off with the avatars, because everybody has to have a story. I can't match you without knowing your story. Well, thank you. This is always fun, Allison. It's been 8 years. Can't wait for our 10th year. I have to do something big for that one. Right? But 9 is even great too. But it's an amazing journey. So for people that want to get so if you want to stay in contact, Toyz Electronics, Toyz Steam, that's my email, that's my LinkedIn. The Hustlenomics Way. Yes.
Such an inspiring story and an incredible journey. So for the people who are on the Zoom or people who are here, what would you say is the first step they could take right now to get on their career journey?
Well, the first step is probably download Diversity. You want to download the app and start storyboarding your story. Our whole thing is, what is the mission? And it's your mission. So the first step is or find another tool. There's things like Mind Map. But we're trying to build that out so that people could actually envision what they really want to be and get the resources to be the best superior version of themselves.